we'll figure it out, don't you panic. Redo Dave to the rescue. Need my engine stand, Carl. If you haven't subscribed, get on there, subscribe, it's not hard, it's only a button. Okay guys, welcome back to DMAT Customs YouTube channel. Redo Dave here, back redoing some stuff I've already done before, well kind of, just dialing it in more accurately. If you've watched a couple of previous episodes on the Area 51, I've been redoing stuff, and this episode is going to be no different. Onto the C-notch, got to dial it in. There's a couple of bits that are a little bit wonky, so yeah, got to make them a little better. Shouldn't be too much of a major, it's just a lot of surface rust on there now. It's going to take ages to clean it all up. But anyway, let's get at it. So, took the wheels off and that, and just to kind of get better access to the sides of everything for measuring everything and stuff. Now, not quite sure how I did it, but when I did this, I managed to get that side is like 5mm further forward than that side, and that explains why I had some discrepancy with like the angles and stuff that I had planned. That side worked out perfect. That side, not quite. So, and then kind of like building everything else around that kind of complicated things a little bit. And the bags aren't centered in the bag mounts and stuff as well, so I've got to make a few little changes here and there. That's not the end of the world, but it's a bit of a pain. But yeah, as you can see, like the top plate is kind of on a bit of an angle. It's not level. So if I level out the lower bag mount and don't level out, leave the top one as it is, they're going to be out of kilter sort of thing. So I'm going to pick most of this apart. I'll probably leave the C-notch on that side, but I'm going to unpick this, unpick all the bag mounts, unpick this front bar. The back bar I think might be alright, but because it's a little bit out of whack, but I might just, to make shit easier, I'll unpick that as well. So kind of unpick 90% of this, which is not a big deal. It's all just tacked on, so I'll set about getting that all cut apart, and then I can get this thing sort of centered up, squared up properly. I don't want to make any radical changes because, as usual, this is where the mistakes were made. I did all my clearancing in the floor and the boot area based around a crooked C-notch. So it's not crooked by much, it's like 5mm, which is just under like something of an inch. I don't know, like it's not quite, it's bigger than an eighth and less than a quarter of an inch. Yeah, see, figured that out in my head. Yeah, so right, I'll set about picking this apart, and then we'll check back in and see how we're going to go about straightening her up. Before I set that other notch in place again, I will measure the bejeebus out of it. Okay, update. Picked apart all that I'm going to pick apart, other than take that off there. So just going to clean it all up, and then I'll make it a bit nicer to work on and weld on, and get some of that kind of, the worst of the kind of surface rust off at this stage rather than later. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so got my two notches kind of cleaned up and ready to go. Sprayed some of that weld through copper primer stuff around where the welds and that are going to go. Sprayed a bit of it inside the notches as well as best I could. Still got to clean up my bag plates and my crossbars, so I'll just get that done, and then we can start putting it all back together. All going well. Then yeah, hopefully it all works out. Bit worried about the bag alignment side of it though. Yeah, but we'll figure it out, don't you panic. So did you see that, like, two-handed sanding and grinding action? Now that takes some serious skill. Not everyone's really capable of it, but here in New Zealand we're a special kind of people. We're a special kind of people. We're a special kind of people. Kiwi ingenuity, they call it. Okay, update. Got all my pieces cleaned up and ready to start again. So now this is where it gets all scientific and technical. I'm going to have to get my brain into gear for this. I might need to have a little lie down before we start, and yeah, maybe go and wash my face and get all this rust dust off my face and out of my nose and stuff. I really should have had a mask on. PPE, kids, safety first. Right, okay, start with placing the cement back in there the right way. Round about there. We have to measure 780. Oh, not that far. Bring it back to 780. Just check it on this side. Right there, so I'll mark that for future reference. You can weld through Sharpie. Now, I want to check all my levels as far as, you know, make that angle the same, 1.1, 1.8. What's that one sitting at? 1 degree exactly. Well, depends on which way you lean on this little doodad. Oh. Ah. Right there. I'll check that again. So does it need to go? Almost wants to come up. Well, it's not terribly accurate, this thing. It seems to roll around, doesn't have it terribly flat. Surface, so it's 0.9, 1 degree, 0.75, 0.85. My gosh. So let's say 1.95, 1.95. So what does that need to do? Does that need to come up slightly? Oh yeah, it does. Huh. What's that? I'm just going to check some more measurements with my tape measure. 260. 260. Bang on. So I think there's discrepancy with this chassis, being that it's 70 some years old. There's been other things that I've found differ from side to side, so whether it's had a, I don't know, I can't see any damage. There is a little bit of a dent in this cross brace behind me here, but whether they were never truly that square to start with, who knows. Weird, eh? So I guess I'll don't really want to change the measurements. Maybe I just gotta prop this side up a tad and, you know, like so, get it up to the same as the other side. It's only just a scotch, but we've got 1.85, so I need to just pack that up to 1.85, then I'll tack it in place, and I'm gonna have to do some like filling in type welding down the bottom there though, but that'll be alright. Okay, had a little thought with all these angles and stuff, and remembered that when measuring your pinion angle and stuff, measuring it all from the one side, that was my knees cracking. So that, which made me sort of think maybe I should measure that angle and that angle from the same side. So now we're hovering around that 275. It was 28. We have got a larger gap down here for whatever reason. I don't understand that. I did trim a little bit off this side way back when, I think, but before I kind of tack it all up, I will go around and do some cross-reference measuring just to make sure that all the heights and everything are the same. I'm not worried about having to fill a gap welding down there. I'm more worried about getting all my heights and my levels, and I'll run a cross level across the top of it as well, just to confirm that everything is as it should be. Bang on level there, according to this. A little low there. Could come up just a scotch on there. I did have it levelled out earlier, but I messed with it, so that may have some bearing on this. So that's bang on there now. Let's recheck all of that. That's saying 1.6. So now that's 1.75, which is 1.65, which is bang on. So lesson learned. Had the back of this corner was just up ever so slightly on the chassis, so that makes a huge difference when you're talking points of a degree. Probably not that critical. Still got a bigger gap to weld up down here, but pretty good. That's pretty good. So yeah, we're sitting at 1.65 on there. And again, depends on where you put it. 1.9, go that way. 1.65, look at that. See? Take that away before it changes. So I need to just make sure it's vertical. That way, 0.6. I just need to pull it that way a little bit when I tack it in place. Will be good, I reckon. Some clean steel. Getting the helmet on. Still looking good on there. If you're wondering, I was just like zipping in that little grindy cut mark that I made when I was cutting that thing off before, so I just had to do a little bit of a redo. Kind of. What next? Alright, I think next is tack these bag plates onto the axle, I think. You can still see my faint line there on both sides, which was for the height of my bag plate for the top, which I'm pretty confident is still in the right place. I just might need to tweak up the angles to make sure it's level at ride height with the bag and centered vertically. That's kind of the bit that may be a bit tricky, the centered vertically, but we'll figure it out. Again, don't you panic. Redo Dave to the rescue. Alright, so worked out where my bags need to go, my bag plates, and it's right there, kind of pretty much where they were before. Actually, I think they are where they were before, looking at my old pin marks and stuff. But I'm just going to like level them up and give them a quick tack, and then should be good. Helmet on this time. Weldering device. Still on 0. Right, perfect enough. Okay, that's then tacked it in place. Now, I've got to get my centre for up here. So, I've got some devices, especially for that, which I put away earlier. That's my centre for the old top plate, that plate there. That's going to go right there. Yeah, it's almost landing exactly where it was before. You'll see the old marks, and it's kind of spooky. See how that's happening? I'll just mark this other side and see how that centre lands. Right, that's close enough. So that's my line. Looks wonky, eh? I might just keep that. Yeah, that's about right. Just looks crooked. Just double check this one then. Yeah, well. Knew it wasn't going to be like parallel to this, which is fine, because this isn't level. This is sitting at like 1.8 degrees, 1.9 or whatever. So to get this, if that was level, perfectly level, it would be up there as well. So that works out. That's about right, I think. Alright, just setting up the next piece. I'm going to tack these top plates on, top bag plates on first, purely because I think that's the right thing to do, and then I can figure out where my sidebars need to be after that, yeah? Okay, so right about there on my line, I reckon. Got my centre line. I had a little bit of confusion with the centre line, realised I'd actually tacked this bottom bag plate on a reasonably not straight angle. So that's all good to go. I've got a splinter in my finger and I haven't really done anything. Right, so I'll get a couple of tacks on those, tack the other side, and then figure out where I'm going to go with the old crossbar edge. Yeah. Right, so we're on our centre, are we? Should be good. My calculations are correct. Alright, rinse and repeat. Alright, so I got both of those tacked on. I'm not sure whether I recorded any of that. So they're tacked in place. Before I go too far, I guess I should just reconfirm all my centres and levels. My level's good on these, so I'm looking good on the bubble. There's a slight bow in this plate, so close enough. And we're pretty good across the ways. Oh no, what's going on there? That's right, that one has to come up slightly, doesn't it? Which brings me bubble back into line. Or does that one have to come up? That one's pretty good. Why are we out across the two though? Am I good this way? Yeah, we're good that way. So that's saying that needs to come up, or that needs to come down. Oh, we'll figure it out. Who knows? Okay, just redoing this side because I realised I'd left a bit of a gap in my top plate, and it was throwing out the old straight line that way, so I think we're pretty much good to go. Tack it on again. Alright, see? Good that way. I've got bubbles in my bubble. Almost there. Let's have a look at one of these crossbars. How do these go on? What's going on here? That's primo on this side, but out again on this side. Yeah, I don't know. Weird. Was that like that before? I don't know. So problem I'm having now is getting a gap between these and my crossbar, which I didn't have before. This other side's all good. This side here feels like something's crooked. Not really sure. Here, so this might be one of these is not quite square or something like that, because I'm ending up running into the same kind of issue that I had with this before. Which is one of these, I think, is throwing out that. How can I fix that? I wonder if I tack one of the bars on where I know it's got to go, and then I can work it to there. I don't know. I'll do that maybe. Yeah. I'm not going to do this. Hang on. Break it off again. That's what's throwing it out. It's not quite square. How did that happen? Yeah, I don't know if you can see that on the camera. You can see that edge. There's a high point back here, which is throwing out my edge. So I need to do some grindy. And hopefully fix that up. Alrighty, so after a fair bit of like dicking around trying to get my shit level, I realised I had this one set up down lower than it was supposed to be, so now I have got level across all of it. So pretty much all of this has been taken back off and tacked back on again, and now I just got to tack on that front bar. Yep. And that one actually sits at a slightly higher height than the other one. Does it? Why did I do that? I don't know. Bag clearance, maybe? Can't remember. It was like 2 years ago I did this and cut everything and had it all planned out, and now I'm trying to remember what I was planning 2 years ago today. Anyway, we'll figure it out. So yeah, let's get at it. Back up there, Barney. Yeah. Yeah, up right there. We'll just chuck a tack on there. Stick. question that little digital meter thing. Yeah, up. That's level across there. So, that's 15 mil there. So, how? Bang on level there. So, how is it 50 mil there and like 57 there? Okay, so update. Got all that kind of, well, those two bars and that tacked in place. I haven't tacked them all across here. Got some kind of weird gaps, but well, that's a point. The chassis might have a funny taper there. It might not be square. It could be why those plates aren't quite squaring up how I thought they would. But yeah, so that's it. Essentially all tacked back in place. I've managed to get my levels and all that kind of stuff pretty good. I think, well, it's squarer than it was last time anyway. So I'll leave it at that for today. I'm kind of running out of day. Ended up getting sidetracked this afternoon doing something else. And yeah, so that plate still looks like it's running uphill a little bit. I'll need to check that top bag mount right there, and yeah, it looks like it's running uphill. So I'm going to leave that for today and get some fresh eyes on it tomorrow maybe, or in the next couple of days anyway. Get some fresh eyes on there and just sort of make sure I haven't missed anything, and I'll go around and recheck and remeasure and all that kind of malarkey, and yeah, then before I kind of seriously weld anything home, let alone cut the chassis. So I've still got to do that yet. Never done that before, so never done this before other than when I did it the first time and kind of ballsed it up, but starting to look a little bit more straighter-ish. Okay, so a couple days later after work, been doing some fresh eyeing on all this sort of carry on and trying to figure out why things weren't quite leveling up as they should, and discovered that the C-notch part that I'd put on the first step was like a half a degree out, which was enough to have this snowball effect on making a whole bunch of other stuff half a degree out, even more. So I've managed to kind of get everything to sort of run a bit more level. That's pretty much on. It's a little bit high at one end. These are all pretty good, and then these match both side to side. Heights match side to side over there, and boom. I was gonna take these plates out and weld all these up and then put these top plates in, but now that I'm kind of wondering whether I should or not, because I've just spent ages getting them to all sit level. Well, this one's sitting 0.2 of a degree, but it's close enough. And this thing keeps sitting on iron filings and giving me false readings anyway. So with that being said, I've got to do the yeah, because my idea was, yeah, take these out and then weld up the bars and then put the plates back in and weld them back in. Yeah, so kind of back on the money now, so let's get at it. Okay, so trying to get this bloody airbag out up here. I was going to, yeah, like I say, take these plates out so I could kind of get around all of this easier, but now I've kind of got the plates in there. I might have to do it when I sort of strip the frame down and flip it up, then I can weld the underside of these bars. At least I can do the top and all the step notch stuff for now. Okay, so let's put my gloves in. Oh, there's your daisy. Alright, getting there. Need a bit more light around the other side there to get around the back of these bars. But alrighty, that's most of the step notch is all welded in there now. So God, I hope it's all square because she's welded in there. All I got to do is actually cut the frame and weld my plates in wherever they might be. I've got them somewhere, the plates that go on the inside of the step notch, and finish welding up that part. Wow, that was a lot of welding. I was about halfway through it when I really started to get my eye in. Usual story, the first quarter I had my helmet set, not enough shade on it, so I was like, well, I couldn't see properly and stuff. And then for the next quarter I kind of got that in, and then I started getting my sort of welds a bit more consistent, and then by the time I kind of got to the end of it, I kind of had my rhythm on. So go figure. As always, like my welding's kind of like a bit, I don't know, today I felt like it was probably 70-30. It'll hold, but some of them aren't that pretty. Like some of the stuff going around the pipe, like I missed little bits, and then I come back in and give them a little touch up. So I might get in there with the die grinder or something and give them a little bit of a clean. But you know, some stuff's all right. Bit of porosity in some stuff, like there, because she's getting a little bit of a breeze going on outside at the moment, and I should have really shut this door, but then I start struggling with light. But yeah, that's enough for today. Gotta let all this cool off and hopefully not distort like a distorty thing. And yeah, and then yeah, next up, cut the chassis. I have never in my life cut a chassis. I know it's just steel, but I've never actually cut like a front clip or anything like that. I know lots of people do it and they do it really good job, but I've never actually done it. So another first. Never done a roof chop till I did this one, never done a step notch till I did this one, never put a LS in anything till I did this one, never put a jag front end until I did that one. So you got to try these things, like just have a crack at it. Heaps of resource out there. If you're unsure, there's heaps of people way smarter than me that you can ask. Oh, I think I've lowered my frame down onto my leg. There we go. Yeah, fella. Yeah, so that's me notched, welded in. Too scared to put a level on it now, just in case it's all kind of like moved and shit, but yeah, I don't think it has. All these aren't too bad. Bit of splattery stuff. I should buy some of that anti-splatter stuff, and then I would have less splattery stuff. These welds I did 2 years ago. Yeah, I know. But anyway, that's enough for today. Starting to get hungry, and so I'll leave that cutting of the chassis until maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, maybe next weekend. But yeah, happy that that's all kind of in there and welded. Just see whether anything moves when I do cut that chassis. Hopefully not. I wonder if I should put stands on both sides of it and support it. I don't know, I'll think about that. Till tomorrow. Okay, just come in and do a little fire check, make sure the garage isn't on fire. It's been about half an hour since I stopped, and she's looking good. Okay, so a couple of days later, getting ready to cut the frame. Right through here, gone burger, and then I can got dished out the bits of plate sitting right there that I had cut a couple of years ago when I got all the rest of the C-notch stuff cut. And so, wish me luck, fellas. It's my first time ever cutting a frame. Can't be that hard cutting it, it's just whether things are going to move and that while I do said cutting of frame. So I'm wondering whether I can just run a zip disc down against this edge and then maybe a reciprocating saw to do the final removal, and then prep it up and get ready to weld my new bits in, bits that are going up against here. So there's a bit of porosity in that weld. Might grind that back and redo that when I do the side bits here, just to kind of clean it up a little bit. Yeah, so are we ready? You ready? I'm ready. Not really. I'm a bit nervous about this actually, because once it's cut, but yeah, see I look worried. How's that? First time ever cutting into a frame. Nothing moved that I could see in any negative way, which is real good. Now I've got to do a bit of clean up. Obviously got a bit of a slightly jagged edge on a couple of places, but basically that goes in there like so, and the shorter ones go in there like so. So yeah, I have to trim these to fit, which is to be expected. I kind of was doing a bit of guesstimating when I planned on these pieces. It should be the same. I don't know why I thought it might be different, because I did the measuring, I think. Give these edges, these cut faces, a bit of a grind up, and then we might squirt some etch and that down in here or something. Bit of weld through primer or something like that. And then set about tacking them into place. And then that's C-notch, but one step closer to the edge because I'm about to break. Yeah, poorly used lyrical, I don't know what I'm getting at. Anyway, I gotta go do some grinding in that now, so we'll be back. Goggles, safety first, kids. Okay, so ground all back, all the stuff that needs to be ground back on there. Still got to kind of clean up those plates a bit and cut them to size, but managed to kill 2 batteries doing what I've just done. So squared a bit of rust weld through primer on the ends of those just because I've got it. Don't know whether it will make a whole lot of difference, considering I want to kind of get the welds to kind of really burn and do those areas. I really could do with maybe a bit more of a bevel. Not too bad. It should be alright if I kind of cook it in, being that it's only, what's 5mm, 3mm plate. I can't remember, 4. I don't know. But humidity's getting up there. Spring is here, and it's fogging up my safety spectacles. Yeah, so another battery and do some more grinding. Might as well trim these up, ready to go. So just get in here and push that up against there and scribe a line in there. Alright, back again. Just squirted a bit of this copper etch, not etch primer, it's a weld through primer. I don't know how much kind of like corrosion inhibitant stuff it's got in it, but I don't think it'll do much with the kind of surface rust that's inside the chassis. That's just surfacey stuff, it's not heavy structural. Once the chassis is done, I'll kind of squirt some stuff inside the chassis as well, probably, unless I forget. It happens, even to sprightly young things like myself. So next is start tacking these inner plates in and secure all this up. Let's get at it. Turn my thing on because I just messed with my wire speed. Yep, righty, sure did. Where's my torch? I probably should clean all the crap out of it from the other day. Yep, sure should. And my nippers. With me making out like I'm all ready to go, and I've got slag all through the inside of my tip. I should really replace it. And the nippers are on the ground over there. And holes in my gloves. And that's about it. Wire brushes on the floor over there. Wire's bent. Always nip your wire off, really. That's right. Get at it. Get it? Yes. Right. Tacks on the other side. Right, this one. This one's actually a little bit shorter. What little hair I've got on my head got caught on my thing on my helmet. Yeah, we're looking on the inside. I think we're good. Right, I'll get ahead and do the other side. Okay, so how's it going down there? About halfway through welding these on. I'm just going to let it all cool off a little bit for a minute, just, I don't know, just so I don't overheat stuff and have it all go warpity warp. It's probably done that already. but I'm getting a little bit of a breeze coming through, so I'm going to have to shut the door, which is going to affect how good my light is. So hence got the LED lamp there hooked up. Oh dear, hopefully that doesn't break. And yeah, welds are coming along okay. I've got a couple of upside down welds I've got to do. I'm not looking forward to those because I really suck at them. Wondering whether when I strip the chassis down, whether I just leave those and do them when I can turn the chassis over. Think about that. Ooh, too much wire speed. I'm going to have to grind that one back out. Yuck. Yeah, I should have waited until I'd done this upside down. Anyway. Yeah. Well guys, okay, so I welded up a storm on this last night, ran out of gas after butchering all my upside down welds, which I'm not going to show you. Someone might screenshot them and make them into one of those, you know, my mate's got a welder memes or something, and I don't really want that. That'd be kind of embarrassing. Most of the welds are pretty good on this, actually, they come up all good. There's a few little bits I missed a bit, tried to go over it and end up a little bit heavy, but it would still be strong, just not perfect sort of laying dimes or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so I think what I'll do to finish up the underside stuff that I kind of made a bit of a mess of it is I'll wait until I've stripped the chassis down, motor out, diff out, everything like that, and when I'm prepping it up for paint, and I'll flip it over and I'll weld those where I'm more comfortable, which is kind of more right side up. I haven't really had any experience or much experience at all of kind of that upside overhead welding, as they call it, so they didn't turn out that well. But anyway, I've got to get my gas bottle filled before I can do my shock mounts, and I want to get that filled today because today's Friday and I'd like to get them done over the weekend so I can kind of get this portion pretty much sewn up, other than the upside down stuff. Might do some YouTubing and figure out how to do upside down welding, because that's where you get all the best information, on YouTube. Okay, so I'm not going to put this camera up. Anyway, I got to load up my bottle and get ready to go to work. Okay, so we're back. Okay, it's a couple of days later, I think. It's now Saturday again. Just spent God knows how long sweeping up, cleaning up, then grinding all my horrific upside down welds back to where I can have a crack at welding them again, and made a massive mess. So just going to have a bit of a clean up again, and I'm going to have another crack at these. I've dropped the axle and that right down out of the way so we can kind of get in there a bit easier than I did the other night. And yeah, I'll show you now. So these are them ground back. They don't actually look too bad now that they're ground back, to be fair. There's a pinholes and crap in them, but they're not like just the 14 kilos of MIG wire that was buried up in there. Also, I'm gonna sort of stitch up down these sides here because a couple of them are a little bit separated up here. I just want to kind of attach them a little bit firmer, a little bit firmer. I've been doing a lot of grinding, so I'm a little bit hands are sore. I had to get the old bloody Screaming Demon out, the little plug-in one, actually, with a proper grinding hard stone disc on there, and we'll meet business this time, boys, girls, maybe a couple people watch these videos. So yeah, got them down to a bit more of a presentable state that I can run another bead over the top of them and just kind of maybe make them look more like proper welds if I can. And now I've got to try not to make the mistake of trying to fix bad welds with more bad weld over the top. I should know better. I do know better, but I get kind of like caught up in the moment, and I've just got to kind of try and get, I don't know what I'm thinking, but I just keep going until I've made a complete mess, and then I have to spend all that time cutting it all back out again. But yeah, so anyway, I'll clean up and then we'll have another crack at these welds. Yeah boy, and then we'll do the shock mounts. Alrighty, so update. Looks really no different than just before, but I've had about an hour's worth of welding and another 2 hours worth of grinding to kind of get it back to where I started from this morning. So big mess on the floor again. Had another crack, that was my knees. Had another crack at welding up the upside down stuff. Just didn't, yeah, still kept getting like really fat, loaded, hangy, like hemorrhoid looking things. Still got plenty of weld in there, so kind of went back to my old tactic of how good of a grinder am I. So I think I might leave it at that. When I flip the chassis, like I talked about earlier, when I flip the chassis I might get in there and do them again, but probably not, because they actually look alright, kind of ground up with a little bit of paint and shit over them, they'll be fine. But down low I haven't ground them back as far. I kind of want to leave a little bit more. There's heaps of weld in there already, so it's kind of pretty sculpted as it is. So yeah, I'm going to leave them at that for now and have another sweep up, get rid of all this iron on the floor, check see how much MIG wire I've got left in the MIG welder, and then get on to redoing the shock mounts. Goodness, this has taken me a long time to get absolutely nowhere, just because I can't figure out this whole overhead welding malarkey. I can do like sheet metal and stitch crap like that together over my head. A couple of little tweaks on the old Migolator and I kind of get it, but trying to lay a nice kind of, you know, overhead kind of thing that kind of looks something like that. I mean, that's not a perfect one, but you know, something along those lines, it would be nice to be able to do that. And I tried what do you call it, kind of keeping my settings as they were, but just going with a short stick out and trying to do like U shapes and E shapes, backwards and forwards and crisscrosses, all sorts of crap. More heat, more wire speed, less wire speed, less heat. Did all of those things. If I had the wire speed down too low, it was pulling back into the tip and falling in there. If I had it up too high, I was just getting massive, big, ugly welds. Plenty of weld in there, be strong as all hell, but just ugly, really, really ugly. So just did a whole bunch more grinding, and I'm going to leave it at that because I'm sick of grinding. I hate grinding. But so sweep up, figure out these shocks I reckon. Ugh. And die grinding too, making little tiny splinters. Wasn't kidding you when I said I've been doing a lot of grinding. That's the second pile of grindy dust that I've swept up from under this thing on this little project. That's a fair amount of MIG wire and flapper disc in there. So that's mostly from those upside down welds, really it is. The other ones actually all went quite nicely. There's a few little bits that are a little bit meh, but most of it was okay. But the upside down shit. Anyway, I'm going on and on about that. I'm not gonna talk about that anymore. Time to move on to the rear shocks. Now, to do that, I've actually got to drop the frame back down to the ride height that I had it sitting on before. But before I do that, I've got to sweep that shit up. Alrighty, so back again after like 4 hours of farting around to pretty much get back to where I finished up the other day. Of welding, grinding, and welding and then grinding again. But I did get these little edges under the C-notch welded up where the seam is. The seam is on the top hat style kind of chassis rail type of thingy bob. So next up, chocolates. Now just compressed it all, so that's it. Shock kind of completely bottomed out. That's half and half, and they've got the axle set probably around about ride height. So where I kind of want this to sort of sit at ride height is I want a little bit more shock for fully extended, if that makes sense. So like if I jack it up to change a wheel, I've got more shock. Now, so at this kind of height here, I think I'll probably set the shock at about, I might break it into thirds, so like have that kind of my ride height sitting around about here on the shock sort of thing, if that makes sense. I jacked this up earlier, this whole diff sort of thing, so when it's fully compressed, I'll do it again and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I just smack myself in the foot with the old jack handle. Come on, what's going on? Get out of there. So we jack it up with this little jack here. I've had this little jack for many moons. It's been quite handy. So that's kind of getting into my fully sort of bottomed out sort of thing. And good thing to note is that my drive shaft isn't hitting the top of that loop. Choice. So that's it. Anyway, let's get back to the task at hand. So that says kind of pretty much sacked out. Now it might not even be that far, you know, at the end of the day, like might not, kind of, because I'm gonna have to have bump stops in here for certification and whatnot. So what I've got to do is set this shock up into a position where it's at, you know, almost kind of like sacked out sort of thing. I don't want it to bottom out ever, and I don't really want it to top out ever. So I don't think it'll top out. These are quite long, these shocks, but they were supposed to be short shocks that I ordered off the internet, and you know the internet, eh? Like, they came all the way from Australia. Originally got them for the truck, came from Australia, and then they were too long. So I got some other shocks for the truck, and these went on the shelf out the back, and now they're going in the 51 again, properly this time, not just like tacked on with like boogery things. I'm hopefully going to do some nice welding on these two. Famous last words. Anyway, let's have a look at this. I might have to get some cable ties and some cable tie these shocks to a certain length. So that's it. Like totally sort of bottomed out. So I want it to sort of be about there. You know, not quite bottomed out. So I mean, if we could go mount that shock bracket about there. So that's the shock almost bottomed out with the diff kind of jacked right up as far as it'll go. So that's it bottomed out, so I can bring it to about there, I reckon. I actually made a mark before, but it doesn't actually want to sit there. So what I might do now is I might drop the old axle down as far as it'll go. Well, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I will drop it down, pretend it's got wheels on it. I just want to have a look and see. I want to see what the shock does, kind of at a full sort of extension type of thing. Oh, that's right, I didn't bolt the bags in, did I? Stupid. Could actually plug the air into these and fully extend it. Oh man, one little bit of die grinding, got little splinters happening all over the joint. Yeah, so we'll drop this down, have a look. Hopefully you can see what's going on. You see what's going on? one wasn't bolted in either. Oh gosh. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. Let's try this again. Take 17. Oop. So that's it, pretty much hanging on the bags now. So if we do put that bracket about there, then I've got to watch that I don't end up hitting the bag mount actually. Hey. Pretty close, fully extended. Might go back to my ride height and just double check that now. These brackets I had made up when I got all the C-notch stuff cut ages ago, and I had a plan for them, and then I changed it, and then I butchered them and whatnot, but I think I'll still use them. But I'll just have to modify them. Right, this time. There we go. Right. Let's have another look at this. Okay, so that ride height, that's well clear of that bag mount. So it's only when it's really fully stretched out that it's going to be running close to that bag mount. Actually, I'll do some measuring. My pen. So we've got 160. So if we go, set it down to about 50 at ride height, should be fine. You reckon? Yeah. Alright, I'm going to get some zip ties so I can pull this thing together. I'll just do that like that. Hopefully I've got enough. Let's have a look. Oh, might need to have 3 for each side. Oh yeah, that works. So that's kind of my ride height sort of setting for the old chocolator, and that's it flattened right out. So I think that's as good a as it needs to be, maybe. So what I've got to do is I've got to maybe fold this back up. Fold that. Actually, I might. What I could do is put a fold in it like that. I'll tip that up so I can weld across the back, and I won't actually cut any of this off. let's get rid of that. Take a little bit of monkeying around, but I reckon I could probably do it. Maybe need to straighten it out a bit more properly first, and then I can sort of tack those into situ. I should really tighten this up so it sits on here nice and square as it's supposed to. So it'll sit sort of like that. Yeah, reckon? Hopefully. Need another zip tie and a hammer. Right, before I go any further, I need to get myself set up properly. I'll get these all straightened out and kind of reset to where I need them to be to do this properly and not be guessing and stuff. So I'll just go and square these out, clean off all the old tacks and dags and crap like that off, and get them ready to go. Alrighty, so got both my shock mounts straightened out and back to a starting point, I guess you could say. So that will go on that side. Right, which is which? Ah, that way. That way. Something like that. Maybe something like that. I don't know. I've got to bolt them all up and figure this out again. I think that's the right side. So that's going to go like so. Right on my mark. Right on my mark. So what I've got to do now, look at, hang on, is that's my position right about there. That's my right about there. So I'm gonna put a little fold through there of some degrees. I don't know how many at this point, and tip this top half back in so it hits that bar there. Seems like over engineering, but hopefully it'll look alright. So let's do that. Should I mark the other side, or should I? Oh no, I'll do one side and then I'll copy it. So over to the press we go. Let's put my lid back on my pen because it's my only good working pen. And yeah, so let's do it. Right, so start with transferring that mark over to the back, because that's where I've got to put the blade on my foldery thing onto here. I'm gonna make it square right through there like that, the old pen. So hopefully I'll be able to get that into the press. I don't know how much to do, so I'm going to have to do this in stages, I reckon. Alright, try this. That's as far as I can take it in there before it hits the old. But that might be about right. I'm going to give that a look. And it needs to be more than that, so I'm going to try and fold it on this edge here. Is this going to work? Probably not. Ooh. No, it's not going to push it down square. Damn it, I need a smaller blade so I can get to the edge. Oh, I might have to venture over to the old vise, unfortunately. Excuse the mess, this is what happens. It's hammer time. Like that looks like way too much, but I've got to knock that back a bit anyways. Alright, let's have a look at that. Not quite, nearly there. So that just doesn't look like that bar is going to fit through there, but it's on a funny angle, so it does kind of fit through there, hopefully. Alright, hopefully got the camera pointing at the right direction. Where's my hand? There it is. There we go. Right, so this is how it kind of ends up actually going to sit. I haven't got it bolted on there, but it'll have to sit up there sort of square. So it's kind of going to sit kind of like that. Ish. Oh, like that. See? Just got to confirm that it's all tickety-boo. Actually, I wonder if this bit's out too far. Actually, that's a point. Okay, it's not going to work because I think this might actually end up hitting the cover on the inside the boot, because it kind of does stick out a bit far. So what I might have to do is trim that back or flatten it out maybe, and then fold it more at this point here, at that fold there. Is that going to be sensible? Yep. Okay, back to the hammer. So this is turning into a nightmare. I was sort of straightening it out and putting it back, straightening it out, putting it back, and it's just not really working. So I think my best course of action might be to put a bit more fold onto this, trim this back, so it just lands where it lands. Will that work? Probably not. It's probably going to want to... That's about where it needs to land on there. If I turn it, it puts the bush on an angle. Oh, I can only try. It's only metal. I'm going to cut that piece off and see what happens. Right, cutting time. A bunch of trimming and bending and hammering and more butchery later. I think this is it. So it's still a little hot, so I'm trying not to touch the bits that I was just grinding on. So, which is pretty close. You know what I'm saying? Like close enough that we might be doing some stunt welding. Hopefully not upside down after this morning's debacle. Like that, see? That's pretty much it. There's a bit of a gap there that I cocked up, but I should be able to, like up underneath there, but I reckon I should be able to fill that. Famous last words, yet again. So, I reckon I can reproduce that. Mirror image of that will be good to go for the other side, and then we can set about welding these mamma jammers on. Well, tack them on and then see whether they're correct. Amundo, as the Fonz used to say. Alright, so we're going to make another one of these. How do I do that? I don't know. Oh, I'll figure it out. I'm going to make one of them, like that, into that. I've got the second bracket all done. That was surprisingly easy considering, well, really just because I had to copy the first one. Now I'm just going to tack these in place and yeah, make sure everything works and doesn't bind and crap like that, and then weld those sucker bangers up. Sucker banger, that's a new one, I just made that up. So, get some power on, make sure the gas is on. Yep. Helmet switched on, eyes are down. Alright. Ow. And half done, change sides. Okay, what do you reckon? Does that look like it's... I don't know why I wiggled then, I just kind of did. Where's the tape measure? 335. 335. Should be good. Look at it from all different angles. There. Big gaps to weld up. Have it pretty square onto the shop. Alright. Now, before we go any further, I'll get the suspension hang, see what happens. My nippers. Those. Yep, not quite bottomed out on the shocks before it started lifting the chassis off these axle stands. Keep that out of the way. There. Things are just touching the bag mounts, so I'm going to clearance those bag mounts. Okay, so with this thing fully extended as far as it'll go, the shocks are just touching the bag mount, so I'm going to take a little chunk out of there, and I'll take a little chunk, oh I can't get my pen in there, out of there. Mark the centre so I can put a nice radius on there. Doesn't have to be much, I don't think, but I don't want them connecting anywhere. Could probably put a longer shock stud in down the bottom, but they're already pretty long, so don't really want to do that. The thing is, if I kind of move them out any further, the shocks kind of get out of alignment. They kind of get a bit crooked. Oh, I suppose I could maybe bring it the top of the shock over that way a little bit. But then yeah, everything else gets all wonky. I reckon it's easier, probably better, just to clearance that mount. I mean, during normal operating ranges, it's miles away, like 10 millimeters away. It should be heaps, I would think. It gets even further away at more normal ride height. These are 7-inch bags as well. I could even go a 6-inch bag too, so it's got a smaller footprint. There is that option. Drop that down there and take these shocks off again. Yep. So yeah, a little bummed out that hit there, but I'll just clearance that. I'll mark a nice radius on it and give that a little bit of room to get away from that shock when it's fully extended, just so it doesn't create any dramas down the road. Hopefully notching that out doesn't create any dramas down the road. Alrighty, weldy time. Breeze is down, so hopefully my gas won't get blown away, so that's good. Get the old visor clean, switched on. Let's do this. Might put a tack around the other side first, just to hold that side. just marked off those clearances for those on those bag plates, bag mount plate thingy bobs. I'm just going to give them a bit of a grind and clear some room for the old chocolators. Right, let's do it. Alright guys, there it is, each primed. So that's the final welding and carry on the old step notch, C-notch thing on the old Area 51 project. So another thing ticked off the list. I think it all looks pretty good. Certman will tell me otherwise, I'm sure, if it's not. Pretty sure if some of your experts ever find their way into the DMAC Customs YouTube channel subscription list, they might know some stuff or two as well, but don't get that many comments, to be honest. Anyway, so there it is. Yeah, had to do some metal sculpting with the old grinder and stuff on the shock mounts. I kind of didn't really get them as nice as I would have really liked on the welding, but yeah, the old grinder and the power file kind of cleaned that up somewhat for us. But on the whole, pretty happy with it, considering most of it's all going to be covered up. Well guys, that's it. So yeah, what next? Oh, got to do some work on the center cross member, and then I can pull this thing apart and start prepping the chassis up for paint. Actually, I could probably pull this thing apart and start prepping the chassis up. Need my engine stand, Carl. Still got to finish up some welding on the cross member, some welding on the front end I think I'll do. There's a little bit for the steering support bracket got to do. I want to redo some stuff on the engine mounts on the chassis side, not the other side, and yeah, but on that centre bearing cross member. Yeah, so still got a couple of things to do on the old Area 51, but that's it for this episode. Hey, it was a bit of a struggle actually, but I'm really happy with how it's kind of coming out. Now they've got a little bit of each primer on there, it's starting to look like something. But anyway, if you haven't subscribed, get on there, subscribe, it's not hard, it's only a button. And yeah, like, share, comment, all that usual YouTuber sort of stuff. And till next time, take it easy, peace.